I grew up in a Christian home and I was homeschooled for all my grade school years. When most people think of homeschoolers, they think of socially awkward kids that have their nose in school books and have no social life. We were not your typical homeschool family. We were very social. We were very involved in church, and we all got to do several different sports, my favorite of which was dance. When taking dance, even though I had a few friends there, I never really felt like I fit in. I wasn't like the other kids. I have always had kind of a goofy and weird personality, so it was very hard for me to make friends, and the friends I did have would like me for a little bit and then decide they didn't want to be my friends anymore. I never knew what I was doing wrong or why they decided they didn't like me anymore. Maybe it was because I was homeschooled and they all went to public school. Maybe it was because I had a great relationship with my family, whereas the other girls seemed to always be complaining about a family member and how they didn't get along. I knew it was normal for people to feel like they didn't fit in, but I just felt like an alien in a strange land. I thought maybe the reason that I didn't fit in was because I had nothing to complain about with them. I had nothing in common with them. My life was good. My life was happy, and maybe that was the problem. When I was in 6th grade, I decided I wanted to fit in more. That year, my attitude changed, and I started being really mean to my family, especially my dad. I became a complete jerk to him. I wouldn't let any of my family members get close to me or try to hug me. If they tried, I would get really mad at them and tell them to get away. But when my dad got near me, I would yell. I would scream. I would shove him away. I would pretty much try to avoid him completely most of the time. Yeah, I can just remember being so overwhelmed with anger that I would scare myself sometimes with how angry I got. I quit telling my family that I loved them, and it didn't take long for me to start ruining the relationship I had with them. During that time, I felt like I became consumed with my anger when I was around my family. At dance, I was fitting in more, and at church, nobody would have been able to tell anything was wrong, but when I was at home, all I had was anger. It felt like my anger was taking away all of my joy. The only time I didn't feel angry was right before bed when I would pray. My anger got to the point where my sisters were intimidated to even talk to me because they thought I was going to yell at them or hurt them, even though I hadn't hurt anybody yet. My little sister was more afraid of me than my older sister, and it could have been because I yelled at her more. I'm not really even sure. The most physically violent I ever got with one of my sisters was when my older sister tried to give me a hug one day. Now keep in mind, I didn't like being touched. And I pushed her away with my fist. Not quite as hard as a punch, but she fell back on the tile floor in our kitchen. I scared myself with that one. I could not believe that I had gotten that mad. I couldn't believe that I let my anger consume me that much that I would do that to one of my sisters. Again, I didn't punch her, but I was not a physically violent person, and that I actually showed physical rage scared me. It scared me really bad. That was a wake-up call for me, that I really had anger problems and that it had gotten out of hand. My freshman year, I joined a Christian ministry called Mishpachah, or Mish for short. Mish is a ministry where about 40 teens, they put together a play called Dead Serious about life. I was the quiet kid in Mish because, like in dance, I wanted to fit in and not be considered weird. I figured it would be best not to talk to anyone at all for people to, I mean, they wouldn't see my weirdness if I didn't talk to them. So I guess I thought that would be the best solution. Every year they do what's called a kickoff weekend, which is basically like a retreat. And during that kickoff weekend, that was a big turning point for me. I knew I had anger problems at this point, and I wanted to fix them. But I was afraid to change because, like your typical family, somebody does something different, everybody's got to make a big deal about it, and I hated that. I hated it when people pointed out that I did something nice or I did something different, but that's a family, and I just didn't like it, and so sometimes I didn't want to change because of that, but I knew in my heart that I had to change. There wasn't a specific impact moment that touched my life the most during that weekend, but I knew I needed to try harder. It took me deciding that if I was going to be in a Christian ministry, I needed to start acting like a Christian at home too. So even though it was hard and sometimes I still wanted to go right back to that angry place when my family made a big deal about something, I had to work extra hard and really lean on God to change my heart and my attitude. Changing was a lot harder than I thought it would be. I was convinced I had ruined my relationship with my family, especially my dad. I was determined to make it right, though. It took me a good year or two before I was able to tell at least my parents that I loved them every once in a while. It definitely did not happen. It wasn't, oh yeah, I love you, I love you, I love you. It took me a lot of time. And sometimes I still wouldn't let them give me hugs. It's just still that sometimes people would touch me and I would just kind of flinch, and it's just that little glimpse of anger would come back. And so that took some practice, took some time. But for the first time, I was starting to feel less angry. And as I was leaning on God and working on my relationship with God, I felt that my anger was slipping away. And that was amazing. It was amazing to feel joy again and to not feel angry. Anger is such a big emotion, and it's so consuming that with God I was able to feel joy again. Was beautiful and amazing, and I loved it. But I still had some self-esteem problems. Because of Mish, I had grown a love of acting. So after high school, I decided to go to a 6-month acting school in Cincinnati where I gained confidence in myself for the first time. Being forced to step out of my comfort zone and embrace my unique personality was amazing. For the first time, I didn't care if people liked me or not because I was at least being myself and who God made me to be. I didn't continue acting after those 6 months, but what I learned there was priceless. As far as my anger goes today, God has brought me milestones. He has brought me leaps from where I was. And right now, I couldn't tell you the last time I got angry. I get annoyed by little things like everybody else does, but not angry. In fact, I actually have people at my work who accuse me of being overly happy, which I take as a compliment, and I give God all the glory for that because it's not not by my own will, not by my own actions. It's all because of God, and I know that. It took me a long time to mend the relationships that I had broken with all my family members, but I can say that my dad and I have a great relationship now. Last year, he had the opportunity to walk me down the aisle, and he was proud. And I was proud to have him walk me down, and that knowing that our relationship was so much better than it was before. And my dad loved me through my anger, and that he was still wanted to walk me down the aisle was amazing. He was proud of who I had grown up to be physically, but most importantly spiritually, and that I had come back to God and I didn't let anger get the best of me. My relationship with my mom and sisters has grown tremendously as well. I love them to death. They're all wonderful, and I don't know what I would do without them. But God, I don't know what I would do without God. God changed me. It wasn't by my own power that I got rid of my anger. It wasn't by my own power that I got self-confidence again. It was by God's grace, love, and continual forgiveness, because I mess up daily. He changed my life. He changed my life, and I am forever, forever, forever grateful. He can change yours as well, or maybe he has already changed your life. If he has, that's awesome. If you have a testimony, share it. God didn't call us to be silent about what he's done in our lives. He has called us to share what it is that he's done. So if you have a testimony, I want to hear it.